don't forget to comment, rate and subscribe. So in this video we're going to be fixing, changing, replacing brake pads. If you're seeing one of these lights, this is what you need to do as well. So as usual, we always start off with the basics. You've got to jack a car up and you have to remove the wheel. Now if you don't know how to do this part, then you really need to leave it alone. But jack it up, release the wheel and slide in your axle stands. Now you got to put this on the subframe somewhere solid underneath the car so you can be safe and protect yourself from any dramas. You can see me just dropping it down there. There you go, we can move off. I actually did the other side at the same time, but you won't see it here exactly. So now once you've got it jacked up, what I would advise first is you crack the nuts while it's on the floor. That sounds mad the way I said that, but you get the point. You just break the nuts, break the seal of the nuts while it's on the floor so it doesn't rock off the axle stands. Once you've done that, then you can release it with just a normal ratchet and knock it off like that. They can give problems sometimes. You just got to kick it off, but generally you're all right. So as for safety, slide the wheel back under the car just for more safety precautions. So here's our brake caliper. Now this brake caliper, most of them are fairly simple, but this has got like a spring clip. This one's located on the side, sometimes they're located on the back, but you need to just pop that out. As you can see the function of that one, just pops out like that. Can be a bit tricky, but you'll be all right. Now for me, this was a good time to open up the brake fluid reservoir, because when we go to squeezing the piston inside the brake caliper, it's going to push back the fluid back into the car. So this just gives it some relief room. Like a header tank sort of thing. So here we are with the brake caliper itself, and it's important to try and ease back the caliper. So get your screwdriver, or as you can see I've got a crowbar here, and ease it against the brake caliper and the disc or the brake pad, and just ease it back a little bit. Once you get a gap, put it between the piston and the brake pad or the disc and just ease it back. You really need something a little bit long with some leverage, but as you can see it just goes back, and that's why we opened up the reservoir tank so that that fluid had somewhere to go instead of being under pressure. As you can see I've got it back quite a way there, and that's virtually all the way back. You can see. Try not to break it. You shouldn't break anything really because it's quite solid stuff down here, but just feel it and ease it back. Don't rush it. It'll go back. You can see I've got a great space in there, and that's enough room for the caliper to move freely. Once you've done that, you need to remove the sliders that hold the brake caliper in place. So where I'm pointing there was the little covers it's got a plastic cover there, and you've got to take that off. This protects it from getting rusty and stuff. And you just pop that off, and inside there is a 7mm Allen bolt. You can see I'm just showing you the cap. There's one a bit at the top. I've got to apologise for the camera angles, but it was really tough inside the wheel well. So I'm going to do the best that I can do for you. So now with your 7mm hex bolt or Allen key bolt or whatever you want to call it, you've got to slip it in there and use your ratchet. Now this can become a bit confusing because you're doing it in front of yourself, if that makes sense. It's imposing yourself. Like you don't get the view that you've currently got of the camera. So make sure you're twisting the right way, because these are quite easy to break and cross thread. So just pay attention to the details. Lefty loosey sort of thing. So I've used two different types of Allen sockets. I've got a long one and a short one, but just take your time and undo it. There you go. Now they can be a bit stiff in there, but if you just work it, they'll come out, and you can see the sliders there. Got a little bit of dirt on it from grease from before, but it's all good. Okay, so now everything's released. You need to get some sort of a strap, bungee cord, what have you, because you need to take the weight of the brake caliper. Having the brake caliper rest on the brake hose is a very, very bad idea. You don't want no part of it, so just make sure you've got something to take the weight of the caliper while you are working. And I've just used a bit of a strap I found from somewhere, so anything will work as long as it's not resting on the hose itself. So once you've got that all hung up, you can actually go to work on the discs, and they just pop out of a screwdriver. Any flat head will just make it pop out. So it's really, there's nothing technical there. So we're having a look at the brake pads themselves. As you can see, they're not in great shape, and it wasn't very long before that would have warped the disc. That's how you warp discs. When the pads wear down and metal rubs on metal, it gets hot, and that's how it rubs down. But they were very, very close. So you also got to remember to remove the sensor, unplug the sensor from the car. Be careful with these because you don't want to break the loom going towards the car. And I just used a helping hand with some grips just to tug it out. There you go. Really, really simple, easy stuff. Check everything, just have a good look over, inspect. This is a good time to see anything and make sure nothing's not broken or damaged. And if it is, take the recommended precautions. So here are our new brake pads. Now this is a good time when you've got everything together to check that your car part supplier has supplied you the right stuff. So just make sure everything lines up, looks the same. You know, the things are in the place they're meant to be. Just a visual, just a visual. It's good practice just to make sure before you put anything in. So now we're cleaning up all of the brake dust and debris or anything else that was around there with this drill and this brush. All of the parts I use will be in the link in the description below. So if you want anything that you see me using this video, you get it from there. Once you get good practice, just to clean up everything around there, any dust, just tidy up. It's all about cleaning. It's all about making sure everything works. So some anti-seize copper grease. This is going to be the stuff that makes your brakes run good over a long period and it won't stick or seize or squeak. All these precautions help to stop that from happening because there's nothing worse than doing a job and you're still unsatisfied. So take all the necessary precautions. Just squeezing a bit on the back, it's commonplace. And then it's just about just pressing them in. There you go. The sensor side goes on the inside. I'm doing the same here. Just making sure everywhere where there's going to be contact, apart from the actual inner pad, is all like lubricated and anti-seize and all that sorts of stuff. Like I said, everything you see me use in this video will be in the link in the description. You can get anything you want, and it helps me out, to be fair. So you can see we're just slotting it back on, and you can see it sits nicely. There's nothing, there should be no pushing and pulling and tugging. So these are the sliders that we remove from the back. I'd just like to give these a quick clean and preparation. As you can see there, with this drill brush, it's really easy, and you end up with a couple of clean sliders. Now you can put a bit of grease on this or some sort of lubricant, but I generally don't do that too much because I think it collects a lot of dust, but you can put a little bit. And it's just about reverse of taking it off. So I use my long hex bolt just to slip it in there. I believe it's a 7mm, like I said earlier. Now, one thing I will say about these, because I've had issues with these before, do not over tighten these. These will pull out the threads inside the caliper. So I did it with a hand ratchet. And just had that feel, you know that feel when it just feels solid enough. Don't try to over tighten it. And that's why it's good to use like a slightly smaller spanner, because it's a little bit harder to over tighten it. When you've got a long ratchet or something like that, you can very easily over tighten it because you don't feel the resistance as much. So there you go, I can feel it's all done. So now it's just about the reverse of taking everything off. So you got your sensor. Make sure you get it all nice and lined up. It's got a little tab at the bottom there, which has to twist and locate in a hole, which I'm going to do now. You can just about see it. This was a really difficult angle for me to get, but you'll see when I twist it, how that bottom part will be pointing down. There we go. Go on. There you go. It's pointing right down. So that's the locating tab for the sensor. And then it's just about plugging in the part from the loom. Now my one was broken. Whoever did it before broke it, so I just gave it a little clean up and I put a cable tie around it. Now it's probably not the best way, but it is better than nothing, and when you're trying to get a job done, you may have to resort to a couple of these things because you don't know how someone else had your car before you. So now with everything all done, you can release the strap because you don't need to support it anymore. It's all locked and located. And now we're just putting back on the spring clip, which stops everything from vibrating. And it just locks everything into place. Once again, I usually do my due diligence where I just clean it, spray it, and all that sort of stuff and clip it back in. So the good idea is to remember how it came off and try and replicate that in putting it back on. So it had a little tab in the back which you slide in to that new little silver part, and just use the screwdriver just to ease it back top, and then we try it at the bottom and just, you know, just help it in. Like you see, it popped out there, but you just got to be diligent with it and it should be just fine. And always do a visual, always get your head in there, make sure everything is the way it's supposed to be, because you really don't want no problems with your brakes. There you go, looks all good. So it's just about putting the wheel back on and releasing the jack safely. Now, like I said before, you should always tighten or do the main loosening when the car's on the floor. Now, if you don't have a torque wrench, like I don't, you know, I've had enough experience to know how much to use, but if you want to be sure, use a torque wrench. There you go, it's all done. No more brake warning lights, and the car's all good. One thing I will say is remember to pump your brakes, because your calipers have been retracted quite far. So pump your brakes a few times before you decide to go anywhere. There you go. Hope you enjoyed the video. Don't forget to comment, rate, subscribe and like. Thank you for watching.